Have you ever felt the weight of having something important to say, but no way to express it? That is what it feels like when you don't know English in a world where English has become a bridge between people. It is like standing on one side of a river, watching others cross freely while you remain stuck, unable to move forward. You have thoughts, ideas, even dreams inside you, but they remain hidden because you can't find the right words. I used to feel this almost every day. In classrooms, I would listen carefully, my mind racing with answers, but my mouth staying closed. When teachers asked for opinions, I wanted to raise my hand, but fear chained it to my desk. Outside of class, when friends shared jokes or stories in English, I smiled politely, pretending to understand. While inside, I felt like a guest in my own world. The silence was heavier than any mistake I could have made. It made me doubt myself. Sometimes I thought, what if I am just not smart enough? Other times, I convinced myself that my dreams were too big for someone like me. All of this wasn't because I lacked intelligence or passion. It was simply because I lacked a language. Without English, I felt voiceless, and being voiceless is one of the most painful feelings in life. It was not only about speaking to others, it was about speaking to myself. Every time I stayed quiet, my confidence shrank a little more. I began to avoid situations where English might appear because I feared the discomfort of being exposed. But the truth is, the more I avoided, the smaller my world became. And the smaller my world became, the heavier the silence grew. That was my before. It wasn't about poverty or lack of opportunities. It was about feeling invisible in a world where voices matter. And until I decided to break that silence, nothing was going to change. Have you noticed how much power a single question can hold? Sometimes it's not the answers that change our lives, but the courage to ask the right question at the right moment. For a long time, my questions were filled with doubt. Why am I so bad at this? Why can't I be like others? Why is English so difficult for me? Each of these questions made me weaker, trapping me in the belief that maybe I wasn't meant to learn. But then, one ordinary day, a new question appeared in my mind, one that felt like a spark. What if it's not about being talented? What if it's simply about not giving up? That question opened a door I had never seen before. Instead of blaming myself, I began to see English as a skill, like learning to ride a bicycle or play an instrument. Nobody is born knowing how to do those things, yet with practice, anyone can. This shift in questioning turned fear into curiosity. Instead of asking, what if I fail? I started asking, what can I try today that I didn't try yesterday? Instead of asking, why is my English broken? I asked, how can I build it piece by piece? It was the same language, the same struggle, but now my questions carried hope instead of despair. That was the power of the right question. It didn't solve everything instantly, but it gave me a new direction. And sometimes, a new direction is all you need to begin rewriting your story. Fear is strange. It often feels larger than reality itself. When I think back to my early days of learning English, I realize it wasn't the language that held me back. It was fear. Fear of making mistakes, fear of being laughed at, fear of sounding foolish. I would sit quietly, knowing the answer in my heart, but the thought of mispronouncing a word or using the wrong grammar kept my lips sealed. The silence wasn't because I didn't know, it was because I was scared. The truth is, fear is louder than any grammar rule. It whispers lies into your ear. They will laugh at you. You will fail. You are not good enough. And when you believe those whispers, you start building walls around yourself. For me, those walls kept me from opportunities. I missed chances to speak, to practice, to grow, simply because I let fear win. But here's what I later discovered. The mistakes I was so afraid of were not enemies. They were teachers. Every wrong word spoken was actually a step closer to speaking right. Every awkward sentence was proof that I was trying, and trying was the only path to progress. Fear had been my jailer, but it never truly had the key. The moment I realized this, the walls began to crack. So often, it isn't our lack of ability that stops us. It's the shadow of fear we choose to follow. And once you stop following that shadow, you start walking toward the light of possibility. There always comes a moment when something inside you refuses to stay the same. For me, that moment was quiet, but unforgettable. I was sitting alone after a long day, frustrated with myself for once again staying silent in class, when a thought struck me. Do I want to live the rest of my life like this, hiding my voice, shrinking in fear, watching opportunities slip away? The question burned in me, and for the first time I felt anger not at English, but at my own hesitation. That was the turning point. It wasn't dramatic. No one else noticed it, no applause, no spotlight. But inside, a switch flipped. I decided that even if it took years, even if I failed 100 times, I would not give up on learning this language. I would no longer let fear dictate my future. From that day on, I looked at every mistake differently. A mispronounced word was not humiliation, it was proof of effort. An awkward sentence was not failure, it was progress. I began to see English not as a mountain blocking my way, but as a path I had to walk, step by step. The turning point didn't give me instant fluency, but it gave me something far more powerful: determination. And with determination, the impossible began to feel possible. That single decision became the seed of everything that followed. It was the moment my before started transforming into my after. The decision was made, but decisions alone don't change a life. Habits do. I realized that if I wanted to learn English, it wouldn't happen in a single leap. It would happen in small, quiet steps, repeated every day. So I started with something simple: 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes of practice, no matter what. Sometimes it was reading a short passage, sometimes listening to a story, sometimes writing down 5 new words. At first, it felt too small, almost meaningless. I wanted big results quickly, but I reminded myself that even the strongest rivers are made drop by drop. So I kept going. 10 minutes turned into 20, and soon, practice began to feel less like a chore and more like a rhythm in my day. Those small sessions carried hidden power. Each word I repeated, each sentence I formed, became a brick in the foundation of my learning. I didn't notice change overnight, but little by little, my sentences grew smoother, my vocabulary richer, my confidence stronger. It was like watching a seed slowly sprout, nothing at first. Then one day, you see green pushing through the soil. Consistency became my secret weapon. Not speed, not talent, not shortcuts, just showing up every day, no matter how small the effort. That was when I learned a truth that shaped my journey. Mastery is not built in hours of inspiration, but in minutes of persistence. Books became my greatest companions on this journey. In the beginning, I reached for the simplest ones: children's books with colorful pictures and easy sentences. They didn't make me feel overwhelmed, and each page gave me a small victory. Slowly, I moved toward short stories, then novels, then motivational books that spoke not only to my language, but to my heart. One of the first books that truly touched me was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Its words were simple, but its message was deep. Follow your dreams, no matter how distant they seem. I realized that as I was reading about a young shepherd chasing his treasure, I was also chasing mine, the treasure of being able to speak and understand English freely. Every page became a lesson, not only in vocabulary, but in courage. Stories did what no grammar exercise ever could. They pulled me in, made me curious, and kept me turning the pages. I wasn't just memorizing words, I was living inside them. I began to underline sentences, whisper them aloud, copy them into my notebook, and even try to use them in daily conversations. Each story I read gave me more than knowledge. It gave me a voice. That was when I understood something powerful. Books are not just for learning a language, they are for shaping the person you become. Through stories, I wasn't only learning English, I was building patience, imagination, and the belief that change was possible. The first time I noticed a real change, it wasn't in a test or an exam. It was in the way I felt when I spoke. Before, my words were broken, my sentences uncertain, my voice shaky. But after months of steady practice, I realized something. I was no longer afraid of speaking. The words didn't come out perfect, but they came out, and that was freedom. Confidence is not a sudden gift. It grows slowly, like the rising sun. At first, it feels faint, just a glow on the horizon. But with every attempt, every sentence, every small success, the light grows stronger. I began joining short conversations, asking questions in class, even making jokes in English. What once felt impossible started to feel natural. And with confidence came opportunity. People began to listen. I could share ideas that once stayed trapped in my mind. I could connect with classmates, teachers, even strangers from different countries. Doors I never imagined began to open, because language is not only about words, it is about connection. The biggest change was not in my accent or vocabulary, but in the way I saw myself. I no longer saw a silent learner hiding in the corner. I saw someone capable, someone brave enough to stand up and speak. That transformation was worth every mistake, every struggle, every late-night practice. It was proof that learning English could reshape not just my voice, but my life. Looking back, the difference between my before and after was not luck. It wasn't that I suddenly became smarter or that some secret trick was handed to me. The truth is much simpler. The difference was effort. Consistent, determined effort. Before, I used to think some people were just born talented with languages, that maybe they had a gift I didn't. But I later discovered that talent may open the first door, but effort is what carries you through the whole journey. Every word I learned, every mistake I corrected, every page I read, those were the invisible steps that built my after. It was never about perfection. It was about persistence. Even on the days I felt tired, even when my progress felt invisible, I reminded myself that every drop counts. Over time, the small efforts I made began to gather, just like tiny streams joining to form a river. That river carried me from silence to speech, from hesitation to confidence. So when I compare who I was before and who I became after, I see no miracle, only the clear result of refusing to give up. And that simple truth is what makes the journey so powerful. The after is always waiting, but it only belongs to those who keep walking, step by step, no matter how slow the road may seem. Now, when I see someone struggling to speak English, I see my own reflection in their silence. I notice the hesitation in their eyes, the words they want to say but swallow back. And I remember how heavy that silence once felt. That is why I always tell them, your story is not over. This is only your before. Your after is waiting for you. What makes this journey beautiful is that every learner carries not just the chance to change their own life, but the power to inspire others. My progress, small as it seemed at first, began to encourage friends around me. They saw me stumble, try again, and slowly improve, and that gave them hope for themselves. Inspiration doesn't come from perfection, it comes from persistence. Each of us has the chance to be a light for someone else. By sharing our mistakes, our struggles, and our victories, we show others that they are not alone. And when they see us moving forward, even slowly, they begin to believe they can too. That is the greatest reward of learning English. Not only the doors it opens for yourself, but the courage it gives you to help open doors for others. Because every learner's voice, once unlocked, becomes a story powerful enough to change more than one life.